Welcome. It's Red Thread time, yet again in another hotel room. We're actually going to shift Red Thread into a series, an investigative series and a review series where we review the many different Hiltons across America. So far, this one, it's pretty good. Jordan's room doesn't come with a cup chair, mine does, so my rating is naturally going to be quite a little bit higher than Jordan's.
Yes.
But
it's good to know that the Hilton in advance knew what type of clientele you'd be. And so they made the appropriate alterations.
They gave me the cuck suite, knowing that when I put in my little Hilton membership number when signing up on the reservation, there's a giant cuck alert. So they know automatically.
Yeah, and they can tell, just like how Target can tell if you're pregnant or not before you can. They can just tell from your purchasing decisions, this man likes to watch.
He's a watcher, not a doer. Welcome again
back, relax.
To another episode of Red Thread. That's right. You can sit back and relax yourself. You can be the cuck.
Get in your cuck chair.
To our little enjoyment, our little sexual experience right here in this room. You're going to be sitting there and watching while we do that.
Yes, I suppose in a way. And I mean this
little
with
cucks, aren't you?
Can't deny the facts. That's what you're doing right now. You are doing a form of cuckoldry. And I, for one, salute you.
Yes, the kind of cuckolding that makes us money. I appreciate that one.
You're a money cuck.
Welcome to Red Thread, everyone. And this week we're going to be talking about how evil that American government is. Finally, a conspiracy episode. That's not really a conspiracy. I mean, these files that we're going to be talking about are completely unredacted and available for everyone to read online. And it is just absolute confirmed truth. So it's pretty much the opposite of a conspiracy. I mean, I guess they conspired, so it is still a conspiracy.
Yeah, it's no longer a theory. It is just a conspiracy.
Yeah, it's a conspiracy that actually happened. So
really not in the remit of this podcast. I don't know why we're going through it at all. This whole podcast seems to be predicated off of either making things up or laughing at Cyrax. That seems to be the two things that we do here. So I don't know why we're going into something that is like of historical fact.
Now we're getting into history. History's lolcows. JFK.
JFK and Fidel Castro, two of the least successful men of all time. Let's laugh at them.
So this week we're going...
It's so incredible because like both of them are highly successful leaders. Like you could pick much more lolcow-y people that have like obtained presidency before, but then we're just sitting there just being like, these guys, two of the people that are like easily like the key figures of the Cold War, Cyrax level leader.
Imagine being them, and first of all knowing who we are and like knowing our content, and then seeing in the future that like we're making series about them alongside people like Cyrax.
That's the greats.
That's the level they're at. God, if only he hadn't got shot in the head, maybe I wouldn't think he's such a lolcow. But unfortunately, that's my opinion on
Bullet
JFK.
cuck.
Yeah. No, but this episode is going to be a good one for all you naysayers to the American government, because there's always the conspiracy surrounding the American government and how they like to enact incredibly fucked up things to their own civilians in the pursuit of pursuing their own motives. Let's call it, whatever those may be. Like there's a lot of conspiracy surrounding 9/11, for example, and that the Americans orchestrated that on their own. This actually does feel like kind of a dangerous thing to be talking about in America. I'm now realizing where we are. I forgot about that.
Well, no, I've noticed from when you, from doing the show, you could joke about 9/11. The time has passed. It's been fine. I think it's about 15 years. 15 years is the goal.
I don't think you can be a foreigner coming into America and joking that the American government did 9/11.
Joke?
Yes.
Or posit?
That's what we do here. We posit. we are deep positives.
Posit what no one else has ever posited before, except to everyone on Reddit.
You can feel good about this one, though, because, again, they did conspire to conduct evil actions against the American public to accomplish their own pursuits. So we're talking about Operation Northwoods on this week's episode. Again, an operation that is confirmed fact. It's not theory. There are documents out there, unclassified. They're quite proud of them, in fact. It's like a little warning to everyone to not get uppity.
Awesome.
So we're going to read through the history of this and divulge all the information that the American government does, in fact, want you to know for some reason. I don't know why they chose to make this kind of stuff public, but they did. We're going to read about it. We're going to have some fun, but real quick, first, a word from the sponsor of this episode.
I'll tell you what, because I've been traveling so much, just want a home-cooked meal. And I think the Factor is probably the closest thing to that. Really, when you are on the go, when your routine is disrupted, you want more than anything something that is healthy, and Factor has over 175 ingredients that it combines together that hit that. Also because they're microwavable, done in 2 minutes, no cleanup, no hassle, to your door. It doesn't get any easier than that. I mean, also, how's this for feedback? 97% of users claim that it led to a more healthy lifestyle for them. 97%. And I'll tell you something else. Definitely does for me. I really like the fact that it has such a range as well. You can go through and you can get all flavors across the world. Like, we're talking hundreds of different meals. And you can pick and choose every single week. It's a really, really good service. As a result, if I were you, I'd head over to factormeals.com/redthread50off and use the code redthread50off to get 50% off and one free breakfast item per box for 1 year while supplies last. That's from the 10th to the 31st, 2026. That code again, redthread 50% off at factormeals.com, redthread50 off at factormeals.com. See website for more details.
It's extremely easy in this modern day and time to put off things, especially with how busy you are. I mean, you just lose track of things so quickly with how fast and active modern lifestyles are. The one thing you shouldn't put off is your health. You shouldn't put off seeing a doctor when you need to see a doctor. I've done that many times in the past. I've put off that appointment that I really did need to have, and it just, 3 months tick on by and you've still got the same medical issue, but you've just been putting off that doctor's appointment when really, if you go do it, you get it over and done with, then it's probably going to fix the issue, honestly, and you're going to be regretting not doing it sooner. That's why the procrastination with booking doctor's appointments need to stop. And the reason why we do that is because making doctor's appointments in the first place is so tedious. Finding the right doctor who's in coverage, calling up the receptionist and booking the appointment, very, very tedious, very time consuming, sitting on hold, especially while you're sick. Very, very stupid. But the answer to that is right in front of you. That's right, ZocDoc is the sponsor for this week's episode and is also the answer to that problem. ZocDoc lets you search and compare high-quality in-network doctors from 150,000 providers with over 200 specialties across all 50 states in America. Their website has a ton of reviews with real patients and also detailed doctor reports so that you can very easily filter and select the right doctor for you. It's very important. And then you can just see their actual appointments right in front of you. You don't have to talk to a receptionist, and you can click to instantly book a visit. And appointments happen shockingly fast within usually 24 to 72 hours of making the booking. So you're not waiting long at all to go see the doctor that you need to see. I've even heard you can score same-day appointments using ZocDoc. If you're a gamer, you'll get this comparison. It basically is like a speedrun hack. It's a massive time saver using ZocDoc. And it's free. So your health matters and taking care of yourself shouldn't be complicated. Find and book the right doctor with ZocDoc. Head to ZocDoc.com/redthread to get started and check that appointment off your to-do list. That's ZocDoc.com/redthread.
Thank you very much, Cuck Chairs.
Yes, thank you, Cuck Chairs. You can get 15% off your own luxury embroidered Cuck chair. Just use code Jackson at checkout.
Just use code Jackson to get your own embroidered with Jackson's face Cuck chair on it. It's actually, every time you sit on it, it's just like, oh, that's nice.
It's actually the ultimate Cuck experience because like the 15% off isn't being lost from the company. I'm actually paying that 15%. I am financially cucking myself for every order, so make sure you go order at cuckchairs.com. Don't go there. I don't know if that's a real website.
Jackson loves to tip.
It's the 13th of March, 1962. The post-war prosperity of the United States is in full swing. Unemployment was dropping. The middle class was expanding. bigly, and the public approval of President John F. Kennedy was reaching record highs. However, a brooding fog clouded the top-secret Pentagon meeting room in Arlington, Virginia, while the rest of America...
Is that how you say it?
Vagina? There's a place here called Vagina. You did take me? You took me everywhere but vagina? Well, the rest of
America... that'd be great. I can't wait to penetrate that market.
Well, the rest of America carried out their working day, carving out their own piece of the American dream. The atrocities being prospered at this briefing table by some of the most powerful men in the country wouldn't see the light of day until another 30 years. A 15-page document offered to the Secretary of Defense, Robert McNamara, would entail a list of dramatic and desperate measures against its own people in order to address the alarming concern of a communist uprising in Cuba. Unbeknownst to the rest of the country, a plan of manufactured terror, bombing of American cities, and false flag operations were being proposed for a green light by the then President John F. Kennedy, the people's president. Aren't you glad he got shot now, guys? Who knows what damage he could have done? Today on Red Thread, we're going to cover the declassified plan known as Operation Northwoods. While never enacted, the covert project remains under intense examination to this day, serving as a stern reminder of how brazen and deceitful those with unrestrained power can be, and a bitter warning of our true position. We are but mere pawns in a chess game far bigger than we care to realize. Are you scared? Operation.
No, I'm laughing. I'm laughing at the fact that some people would unironically say that sentence.
I said it unironically. I thought it was a very cool sentence. Not as cool as the sentence or the title, The Cuba Problem. Before diving into the disturbing particulars of Operation Northwoods, our entry point begins with the brewing fear of a communist regime catching a light in nearby Cuba. Just some years earlier, in 1959, during the presidency of Dwight Eisenhower, Cuban revolutionary Fidel Castro and his 26th of July movement had overthrown the U.S. allied Cuban dictator Fulgencio Batista. Castro dismantled the long-held U.S. economic control, particularly through land-holding reforms, trade, and the nationalization of former American assets. And you can understand why America would not be a fan of that. The agitation was only exacerbated when Cuba began to form close trade and military pacts with the Soviet Union. We don't like those guys. Still strictly adhering to their Monroe Doctrine, which imposes the United States as the supreme economic and military influence of the Western Hemisphere, which is kind of coming back in a way with Venezuela and such. The U.S. is currently exerting its control over their Western sphere of influence through the Monroe Doctrine. This alliance between the neighboring Cuba and Socialist Soviet Union posed a serious threat to the U.S. in the minds of American leadership. That wouldn't be the only thing that threatened the mind of U.S. leadership at the time. There's going to be a lot of JFK getting his head blown off jokes of this. Don't facepalm.
So brutal.
Yeah, you got it in your stand-up show.
And you don't have to give away the sizzle. I suppose you do. By the time this is out, everyone would have seen it by then.
Too late.
And they would have seen the grand finale, which was that. But yours, I think, was... show some respect.
It was a bit unbecoming. It was unbecoming of a cuck. The fears of communists.
The noblest of men.
The fears of communist ideology and similar uprisings spreading to nearby Central American countries took hold of the Pentagon and CIA, leading to a cascade of failed interventions, which is where it gets pretty funny, actually. Following Castro's nationalization of seized American corporate assets throughout Cuba, including Standard Oil refineries and United Fruit sugarcane plantations, President Eisenhower... Do you know much about President Eisenhower?
No. Don't know that much about him.
Yeah, he seems that
all I know most of is just the Simpsons gag. Let's get busy.
Is he the one that made that giant dam?
No, that's Hoover.
Hoover, but they were friends, weren't they? Did they work on it together, maybe?
I don't know.
I think he was in a Transformers.
He integral to a war.
Yeah, the war between Decepticons and Autobots, I'm pretty sure. I think he was in a Transformers movie.
Yeah, but which side was he on?
Absolutely, the Autobots. He was a noble man.
Okay, right. Yeah. Or was he?
Just like Optimus Prime.
Let's read on. Yes, I'm sure
Transformers is a metaphor for the Cuban Missile Crisis.
President Eisenhower slashed their imports of Cuban sugar and in an attempt to choke their largest industry. This backfired spectacularly by sparking a sugar trade deal, the yummiest kind, between the USSR and Cuba, which only brought
the deliciousness of irony.
which only brought the two nations closer together with their love of chocolate. The exact outcome the US feared. I do love it when
Stalin loves chocolate.
I do love it when the US government does something nefarious and like underhanded like this, and then it backfires spectacularly on them.
Yeah.
like
It's very Wile E. Coyote stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, why I order.
It's very much this sound effect, isn't it?
By October of 1960, Eisenhower executed a trade embargo banning all trade to Cuba except for essential medicine and food, so they weren't on the friends list at the time. The economic interventions intended to destabilize Castro's regime failed, with the now cut diplomatic ties between both countries only fueling the nationalist anti-American sentiment that propped up Castro's public standing. Cuba was now under the support of the Soviet Union, and this political threat sat just 90 miles, don't know how many, I have no concept of how far that is.
I'm going to guess like 200 Ks.
Yeah, I don't know. From the shores of Florida. The risk of the Soviets using Cuba as a base for espionage and gathering intelligence on the US was a prime concern. Before his departure from office and handing the reins to JFK, Eisenhower signed off on a CIA document titled, this is the title of it, A Program of Covert Action Against the Castro Regime. This was a final... Yeah,
they were very good back then, weren't
they?
This wasn't the peak age of like Operation Desert Storm, was it?
No, but we will get there. I think they realized how silly these very direct titles were.
Especially when you're saying this is a top secret document, please do not look inside unless you have appropriate jurisdiction.
Yeah, exactly. There's no love of the game here. And we learned this from our trip to the Spy Museum in Washington, D.C., that you got to put a little bit more pizzazz on things.
Check out that bit. Such as putting wax on a piece of paper, they're rubbing it around to see that the secret message is just painted lemon, which was just hilarious. That was the best observation that you made in there. That was just like, holy fuck, everything that you used to get in the Easter show bag that was just like invisible ink. Like they actually do use that.
All those children toys came from very serious political operations.
The world's smallest camera is actually what the spies use.
Yeah.
They weren't lying when they said that on the package. Even as a 5-year-old, I thought, surely this is a bit, hyped up. It's not.
Go check out Friendly Geordie's. What are you doing?
There's something on there.
Go check out Friendly Geordie's channel.
Oh, mate, there's a lamp.
Yeah, there's a lamp in the background. Calm down. What have you got in that? You've laced yourself for something. Go check out
High on Life.
Go check out our travel videos over at Friendly Geordie's channel. The link will be below. I don't think the American video will be out yet, but we did do something.
So that it challenges it, Jackson. Challenge accepted. I will personally edit it.
Good. Don't do that. Something in every single city. We'll do something. We're doing something in every single city, all like 14 cities, something crazy.
We went to 14 cities.
And we did something in every single one of them. You're not going to want to miss the New York City bit. Trust me.
Yes.
It's great.
And then sign up to the OnlyFans, where there will be more bonus content that we can't get into here.
Official.men. This was a final effort.
No, there's official men there for sure.
This was
that's what we're going to call
that's all of
the OnlyFans. Officially men.
Officially only men.
Officially only men.com.
This was a final effort. Shut up.
It's fucking just cold. You got to give it. It's very funny.
I hate your business ideas. They always end up the same.
I have one business idea.
Men.
All male OnlyFans. That's it.
This was a final effort which authorized propaganda offensives, orchestrated paramilitary resistance, and a greenlit intelligence operation to be conducted to bring about the toppling of Fidel Castro. This approved program would become the backbone of JFK's subsequent invasion of Cuba. We come to the Bay of Little Piggies.
Oh, no, not piggies.
Now briefed by the CIA on the ongoing Cuban threat and Eisenhower's course of action and his alliance with the Decepticons, President John F. Kennedy was prepared.
Away with the Opticons.
President John F. Kennedy was prepared to follow through with his predecessor's program to take down Castro's regime. The code name for the planned ground invasion was Operation Zapata. Camps were established in nearby Guatemala with around 1,500 anti-Castro Cuban exiles, known as Brigade 2506, being trained up for guerrilla warfare. And if you don't know what guerrilla warfare is, it's not at all as cool as it sounds. They don't train guerrillas to fight for their side or anything like that. It's just painting yourself camouflage and hiding in bushes, basically.
That did actually take me a long time to figure that out.
Yeah.
I'm quite embarrassed about that. I think I learned that probably at about 27, maybe.
Yeah, but isn't it so much worse?
What?
Like, the idea of guerrilla warfare sounds so much cooler than anything that it actually is.
Wait, hang on a second. Are you saying that guerrilla, like, you don't want to see a war conducted entirely by guerrillas?
No, I'm saying that would be cool. Like, your image of guerrilla warfare, when you first hear the word guerrilla warfare and you had no concept of what it is so much cooler than then finding out, no, it's just a couple of guys who like painting their faces different colors.
That's true, but also, guys, are we alone on this? When you first heard the phrase guerrilla warfare and then you excitedly asked your parents, what is guerrilla warfare? Was your face lit up like it was Christmas? Because I think we both had the same experience. We both thought of the fucking automaton cunt or whatever his name is, Optimus Prime. He's Optimus Prime in Beast Wars, right?
Is he?
Did you watch Beast Wars?
I didn't watch Beast Wars. I'm a fake Transformers fan. I mean, I was too.
I don't think I am a Transformers fan. I think I've only watched Beast Wars.
Yeah, so wait, do the Autobots and Decepticons, I can't believe we're talking about this. Do the Autobots and Decepticons turn into the dinosaurs in Beast Wars, or do they just have alliances with dinosaurs?
No. Alliances with dinosaurs. How the fuck is that supposed to work?
Like, what would you like? Do certain
I don't
dinosaurs
feel like dinosaurs are like sentient enough to communicate complex warfare strategies.
I think giant robot dinosaurs that can transform are probably smart enough to form alliances, right?
Yeah, but you're saying that they're just having an alliance with dinosaurs.
I swear there was a specific dinosaur, like a T-Rex transformer.
Yeah.
But I don't think
that was who was the bad guy? Not Optimus Prime. Who's the Decepticon leader?
Megatron.
Yeah, his name was Megatron. It's exactly the same. It's just they were animals instead of trucks.
Really, I thought there were scenes with Optimus Prime and dinosaurs together, and Optimus Prime was not a dinosaur.
No, Optimus Prime was a gorilla.
Okay.
And Decepticon Man, who I've already forgotten the name of, he was a T-Rex.
Well, I'm glad we got to the bottom of that. Continuing on with this. This was led by former Cuban Prime Minister Jose Miro Cardona, and by this we mean the Brigade 2506, not either the Autobots or the Decepticons or the Dinobots.
No, keep on with the metaphor. He's part of the Decepticon.
Cardona was initially placed
Anyone with a Spanish name is a Decepticon.
Cardona was initially placed in as Prime Minister by Castro following the 1959 revolution as a means of showcasing to the world that Cuba was still run by a sensible and lawful democratic leader. Despite this, Castro still retained executive powers, often bypassing Cardona altogether for major policy decisions and public announcements. Once Cardona realized his position was merely that of a figurehead, he resigned and fled due to the increasing danger against his life from the growing radicalization of pro-Castro Cubans. So, like, Castro kept him in just as a puppet, basically a puppet leader. He had no real power, but then he chose to flee anyway and become a rebel to fight for the side of good.
But what is being a rebel? Does that just mean going to Florida and visiting Disneyland a couple of times?
No, I mean, these guys, these 1,500 Brigade 2506, they sound like they were pretty much actively engaged in guerrilla warfare.
I know that he would be, but sorry, those 1,500 would be, but did that guy?
Probably not. I mean, he was pretty important to the messaging. Yeah. So probably chilling it up in Florida, maybe.
I think so.
Yeah. If Eisenhower's ploy to overthrow Castro's leadership was to be successful, the intention was to offer Cuba's provisional presidency to Cardona. On the dark evening of the 14th of April 1961, the invasion fleet set sail from Nicaragua, heading towards the southern coast inlet of Bahia de Coquinos, or the Bay of Pigs. Ultimately, the plan was that a ground invasion would spark an uprising against Fidel Castro and his regime. However, the plan was founded on faulty CIA information, and there was a strong cohort of anti-communist resistance lying dormant in Cuba. That was their belief. CIA believed that there was a strong cohort of anti-communist resistance lying dormant in Cuba, just the same way that the American government most recently thought that there was a strong anti-Iranian resistance waiting in Iran for the moment to strike. What they forgot was that pretty much all of them had just been executed in the months beforehand. So not great intel there either. The reality couldn't have been further from the truth in this situation. Not only was Castro's popularity steadily climbing, but any such dissidents were captured and imprisoned well before the invasion took place. Not only this, but the intended secrecy of the operation was nowhere close to being covert. News of the Guatemala training camps and suspected ground invasion leaked to newspapers, allowing Castro to prepare for such an eventuality ahead of time. JFK opted to direct the troops to the Bay of Pigs instead of the CIA's initial location of the city of Trinidad, as he believed this location to be a better choice of camouflage. This would prove to be a fateful error, as the Bay of Pigs was surrounded by thick swamps and offered no place for a retreat. On the 15th of April, 8 B-26 bombers disguised as Cuban Air Force planes were directed from Nicaragua and attacked Cuban airfields. While some destruction was inflicted, multiple key Air Force jets were left undamaged. And with Cuba's foreign minister blowing the whistle at the United Nations that the US had attacked them, disguised as Cuban Air Force, the operation was foiled on an international stage and the planned second air attack for the following night was cancelled. So yes, everyone paying attention to politics right now, the US really has always just been that way. Like, it's kind of crazy how many times they've tried this shit.
What I'd like to know is how many times do they get away with it? It seems like it gets... Well, I suppose we only ever read about the time that he's foiled.
Brigade 2506, however, were ordered to continue their plans from the Bay of Pigs on the night of the 17th of April, and a ground invasion ensued. Still under false CIA intelligence that the landing was uninhabited by Cuban militia, the invaders were identified almost immediately, and news of the invasion was directly relayed to Castro via radio. 20,000 of Castro's troops were deployed directly to the Zapata swamp region, and the counter-revolutionary invasion suffered extensive attacks from the remaining Cuban Air Force, losing 2 escort ships, half of their air force, and much of their communication equipment in the process. Multiple landing craft were also sunk before arriving ashore, as earlier reconnaissance photos misidentified the nearby coral reef as harmless seaweed. Consequently...
Oh my god, are you kidding?
Don't you feel like the message of having America as an ally is always... When you have allies like this, who needs enemies?
Yeah, I know. Do you think as well? And also just like, isn't it incredible that Cuba's greatest defense was coral? Like...
Let that be a lesson to us.
Their soldiers, nothing like that. It was just like this incredible combination of blunders that the American government would have probably spent the equivalent of billions of dollars, like tens of billions of dollars on that, and it eventuated to nothing.
Because of coral.
And also, yeah, the Cuban Defense Force couldn't, nobody did anything there in either of those situations.
That's why we need to protect our Great Barrier Reef, guys. We need to bring it back to protect from the Chinese. Consequently, the small craft's fiberglass hulls were ripped apart by the razor-sharp coral and added to the haphazard attack. Everyone always thinks of coral as friendly and colorful and beautiful, but it has a hidden dark side.
Little do they know.
You can't trust a coral. Kennedy ordered an air umbrella on the dawn of the 19th of April, sending 6 unmarked American fighter planes to help fend off Castro's counterattack. Likely due to the confusion in time zone change. No, my God, Jesus Christ, time zone change. Like the thing that happens with... I'll read. Likewise, due to the confusion in time zone change between Nicaragua and Cuba, the fighter planes arrived an hour too early before U.S. Navy fighter jet coverage was deployed. Utterly exposed, they were shot down by Cuban Air Force.
Jesus
And the invasion was squashed by the end of the day. Literally happens to us in Discord calls. Like, whenever we're dealing with, like, American people, like, you know, converting time zones is annoying and difficult. And
yeah, CT is very annoying.
Sometimes you can be off. It's heartening to know that the CIA also struggles with time zones. It makes me feel a little bit better.
Yeah, I'm sick of your CT and ET shit.
Yeah. We should just use it. We do have a universal time zone. Within 3 days, Castro's troops had defeated the invading soldiers. More than 1,200 paramilitary troops of Brigade 2506 surrendered to Cuban forces, and 100 were killed. 4 American volunteer pilots were killed in the final air umbrella blunder, but due to Kennedy's commitment that American personnel would not be directly involved in the ground invasion, the CIA kept their deaths a secret for almost 3 decades. The Bay of Pigs invasion became a monumental military failure for the US and global embarrassment for JFK.
I just I'm trying to think of a single war that the Americans won. I suppose they won one against themselves.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
No offense, but I really feel like the French did a lot of the heavy lifting in the revolution. I'm trying to think of one. World War II, but that was sort of just like a team effort.
Yeah, it was a team effort. And some would argue they did everything in their power to lose as well.
Now it's like they're having trouble invading Cuba. Like, this is not a great track record.
You guys are great. We love you guys. Keep going. Keep trying. Operation Mongoose.
The only thing that they've ever successfully like invaded was I can't even give Venezuela to them. They didn't invade it. They sort of just like kidnapped a guy.
They just bought it.
That is what?
They just bought it, basically.
Yeah, essentially.
But to be fair, Australia isn't any better in that sense.
What?
Like, they're going to give us shit because we lost a war against emus, for example. Like, Australia's not that much better.
I don't even know. Like, I've never even looked into the emu war, but now that we've just said that we lost one, I'm feeling very defensive and butthurt about it. And frankly, I chalk that up as a tie.
Yeah.
It's just, the emus won and Victor's write history, don't they?
Yes.
So they made themselves look very favourable in that, didn't they?
Okay.
I'm just saying that, there's two sides to every war. And
but we are unheard.
Side.
Yeah, we are unheard.
Right.
Our story is unheard because emus wrote the story afterwards.
With their far superior language writing capacities of all that infinite sand out there in their beaks that they can use to write words into the sand.
Those tricksy emus. Coming to another animal, we're now going to talk about Operation Mongoose. Humiliated and frustrated by the disaster of the attempted Bay of Pigs ground invasion, Kennedy fired the director of the CIA, Allen Dulles.
Fair enough. I feel like he should be fired for that.
I wonder if he's... Because the airport in Washington was the Dulles Airport.
No, it's named after him.
Yeah, maybe.
That loser?
Yeah, that guy. Kennedy fronted the public and took total responsibility for the failed overthrow, but privately vowed to splinter the CIA into 1,000 pieces. That's a direct quote, and also a direct reason why his head got blown off. The failure left the United States caught with their pants down. Their secret plan for regime change, exposed on the international stage, validated Castro's hostilities and gave justification to the Soviet Union that the threat of nuclear missiles was more than just an escalation, but a critical deterrent for any future plans of invasion. This kicked off the Cuban Missile Crisis the following year in 1962. By November of 1961, months after the embarrassment of the Bay of Pigs invasion, Attorney General Robert F. Kennedy and White House aide Richard Goodwin proposed to Kennedy, the President Kennedy, that they begin a campaign of sabotage and terror against Cuban civilian and military targets. Kennedy authorized the overarching project to destabilize the Castro regime once and for all, titled Operation Mongoose, or aka the Cuba Project. And of course, this goes about as well as you could imagine. The assigned architects of this grand plan fell to a body of high-ranking US officials, the smartest of the smart, referred to as the Special Group Augmented. What kind of name is that? They're not super soldiers. Calm down. This was chaired by Brigadier General Edward Lansdale for military operations and William King Harvey for CIA intelligence operations. Other officials included the CIA director at the time, John McCone, the National Security Advisor, McGeorge Bundy. McGeorge is a first name? McGeorge Bundy? That can't be right. McGeorge as a first name.
Nah, it must be the other way around.
Bundy
Like
McGeorge?
that other guy's names.
Or do you mean the other way around?
No, the other way around. So
George
like it's Bundy McGeorge. It's all opposite way around. So John McCone is actually McCone John. All right, and that makes a lot more sense because you can't have Max at the beginning, can you?
State Department.
Okay, so yeah, McCone John.
Yeah, McCone John and Bundy McGeorge.
Yeah. And another one that was named after this new CIA director, John. Any person that a prostitute picks up, it's named after John.
State Department Alexis Johnson. There's a lot of Johns. Defense Department
Alexis, yeah.
Defense Department Roswell Gilpatrick.
Gilpatrick Roswell, yeah.
Joint Chiefs of Staffs General Lyman Lemnitzer and General Maxwell Taylor.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to even attempt it.
I'm teaching this one. Secretary of State Rusk Dean. And another Mech that starts at the beginning, McNamara Robert. There we go.
Yeah, Robert McNamara, the Secretary of Defense. This counterintelligence operation was working in tandem with other plots to outright assassinate Fidel Castro, including poison pills, a delivered custom diving suit littered with tuberculosis spores, toxic cigars, and exploding seashells. Did Fidel Castro just live on the beach?
Again, it's another Easter show bag, isn't it?
It's great.
Exploding seashell.
It really feels like they were just having fun with it. They knew
Yeah,
it was
I
going
know.
nowhere.
That was sick.
I mean, what?
It just seems like a lot of it is they watch James Bond and think like, oh, yeah, I think we could do that.
I mean, what are you going to do? Like, if you have an unlimited budget, you may as well have fun with it.
Man, not even just have fun.
Get creative with it.
Don't you think? Yeah, it's an actual like creativity exercise. Like they're doing brainstorming. That's how it's done, officers.
As made evident by the fact that Fidel Castro was never assassinated. They were very...
Well, it's fun. That's exactly it. No one got hurt.
As creative as they were, they ran into countless problems trying to execute any of these plans. Another harebrained idea would have to be conjured in the meantime. By March of 1962, the Joint Chief of Staff involved in Operation Mongoose were tasked by the CIA to devise a plan that would provide the United States with justification for deploying the American military onto Cuban soil. They were really itching to ground invade Cuba and to have reason to do so. To assuage the public that this was a just cause, and also B, for the international political stage, obviously. Importantly, the pretext would need to offer an adequate methodology for galvanizing public support for the attack. To quote the memorandum directly, quote, such a plan would enable a logical build-up of incidents to be combined with other seemingly unrelated events to camouflage the ultimate objective and create the necessary impression of Cuban rashness and irresponsibility on a large scale, directed at other countries as well as the United States. The desired resultant from the execution of this plan would be to place the United States in the apparent position of suffering defensible grievances from a rash and irresponsible government of Cuba, and to develop an international image of a Cuban threat to peace in the Western Hemisphere. End quote. So the Americans really are, at this point in time, never again, I promise you that. That's not what my insinuation means. But they are that meme of the guy riding a bicycle and then he jabs a fucking stick in the front spoke and falls off the bike and then complains that it's the world's problem.
Yes.
It's that. Broadly, Operation Mongoose involved numerous objectives and strategies, some executed and some rejected in order to bring about instability of the Castro regime. Hundreds of agents across multiple US departments were involved in recon missions, intelligence, anti-Castro propaganda operations, as well as the aforementioned assassination plots. One such plan proposed to Lansdale, titled, here's another fucking awful name for their operations at the time, or their documents. This one is titled Possible Actions to Provoke, Harass, or Disrupt Cuba. And this included Operation Bingo and Operation Dirty Trick, which is when you slip a little finger in.
Yeah, Rear Admiral.
Yeah, Rear Admiral.
That is an Operation Dirty Trick, isn't it?
Yeah, naughty, US government. Operation Bingo, the less interesting operation, involved staging an attack on Guantanamo Bay facilities, triggering an appropriate so-called counterattack on Cuban airfields. Basically, fake an attack on Guantanamo Bay and then shoot Cuba with a lot of missiles and invade them because of that. So a false attack. Operation Dirty Trick, which relied on the outcome that the planned US space mission Mercury failing, similarly intended to manufacture irrevocable evidence that so-called communists, i.e. Cuba, directly interfered with the launch, blaming responsibility for the failure on Cuba. These early plans would become the seeds of what we now understand to be Operation Northwoods, a dramatic and elaborate plan to fabricate Cuban attacks on American resources at the expense of their own men and facilities to justify aggressive retaliation. A month later, in March of 1962, the details of Operation Northwoods would be underway behind the scenes. So yes, we're not even into it yet, but they did, even before Operation Northwoods, have several operations being currently planned at the time to basically sabotage their own space race missions as well as their own facilities and stuff, and cause like widespread damage to themselves to basically force a Cuban invasion or facilitate a Cuban invasion. So really, what aren't they capable of?
See, this is the exact opposite of what we had before, where what you were saying there shouldn't be said without a hint of irony, and yet it was. I think we've mixed up two sentences like that. That sentence should have been profound. That one.
I was simply talking about the great war between the Autobots and the Decepticons, nothing more. The
Yes.
Joint Chief of Staff presented the
Confused about
document.
this metaphor now, but continue.
The Joint Chief of Staff presented the document to Robert McNamara on Tuesday, the 13th of March, 1962. The full title of the report was, quote, Justification for U.S. Military Intervention in Cuba. The discussion subheading commenced with, quote, the suggested course of action appended to Enclosure A are based on the premise that the U.S. military intervention will result from a period of heightened U.S.-Cuban tensions which place the United States in the position of suffering justifiable grievances. World opinion and the United Nations Forum should be favorably affected by developing the international image of the Cuban government as rash and irresponsible and as an alarming and unpredictable threat to the peace of the Western Hemisphere. End quote. So that was the goal of this discussion on this document, was basically to make paint the Cuban government as rash and irresponsible and willingly attacking America to provoke an invasion. The initial submission acted as a preliminary overview of potential actions which the Secretary of Defense and other relevant departments could review for planning purposes. Despite its cautious language, the submission was a bold and high-level proposal drafted by the United States' most high-ranking military leaders from the Joint Chief of Staff. This submission was ultimately signed off by General Lyman Lemnitzer, a highly decorated army general who held a pivotal role in North African operations during World War II, as well as the Korean War and the Cold War efforts. His approval of the drafts offered serious weight to the proposal, not without substantial backing from other powerful military figures, including the Chief of Staff of the Army, General George H. Decker, the Chief of Naval Operations, Admiral George W. Anderson Jr., the Chief of Staff of the Air Force, General Curtis E. LeMay, and the Commandant of the Marine Corps, General David M. Shoup. So it's
Wonder who out of those got the most pussy?
Shoup, definitely.
Yeah, I was thinking Shook too.
It's a very sexy name.
Yes, it is.
It's within the
It's weird.
appendix of Enclosure A that it's within the appendix of It's within the appendix of Enclosure A that the heinous proposals are outlined. These proposals read, we're going to go into the proposals now. Anxiety was rising in the Pentagon and special team augmented were becoming desperate in concocting ways to thwart the Castro regime. Time was of the essence. Those Cubans were getting too strong. And the memorandum explicitly stated that if any proposed actions were to be taken from the document, it would need to happen within months. It would be crucial for the US to have the justification for taking action against Castro and Cuba before any defense pacts could be made between Cuba and... Are you paying attention?
Yeah, well, I can read.
No, don't read. Use your knowledge and your attention.
Cuba. Who would they be friends with?
We've only been talking about several people. The United States. It wouldn't make sense for them to be friends with the United States.
Okay, I'm going to pick the United States. Am I right?
I don't know why I'm closing my eyes.
It's a good try. It was actually the Soviet Union, which is as far from the United States.
That, seeing as that was the other possible answer.
Yeah, well, no, there's plenty of.
I flipped a coin, guys.
There's China, there's Japan, there's Australia, there's the emus. There's so many different choices.
Okay, so look, you're picking any countries that they could have been aligned with.
Not even just countries, like fictional entities, like the Autobots and Decepticons. I would have accepted because we've been talking about them quite a bit.
But you wouldn't have accepted them. You're only accepting the actual answer. If you pick it out anything of all time, I'm just going to say that they're an ally with Mars.
They're an ally with the Dark Wizards from the Hogwarts universe.
Oh, was that the correct answer?
Yeah, that was the correct answer.
I would have never guessed that.
You would have
never thought of that because...
It's a bit of a plot twist.
I honestly thought that they would have aligned themselves with a much more powerful Hagrid.
Just Hagrid.
Because he's big.
That's big and strong. And the United States could not stand for that. They could not stand for a strong Cuba and a strong Hagrid relationship. It would be too much.
He's probably the one that whispered to the coral. His care of magical creatures' knowledge.
Guantanamo sabotage. This was the first proposal. Right out of the gate, one of the first proposals listed in the appendix involved utilizing US-friendly Cuban saboteurs in staged riots and ground attacks in Guantanamo, destroying US property and artillery in the process. The brief of this proposal was outlined as follows. Quote, a series of well-coordinated incidents will be planned to take place in and around Guantanamo to give genuine appearance of being done by hostile Cuban forces. The incidents to establish a credible attack are, not in chronological order, start rumors,
many, in brackets,
many rumors.
Start many rumors.
Isn't it funny to imagine like a 60-year-old army general, a decorated army general writing down start rumors?
Yeah, it's very good.
Yeah.
So good. Start a burn book.
Use clandestine radio. Land friendly Cubans in uniform over the fence to stage attack on base. Capture Cuban friendly saboteurs inside the base. Start riots near the base main gate. Friendly Cubans. Blow up ammunition inside the bases and start fires. Burn aircraft on airbase. Sabotage. Lob mortar shells from outside of base into base. Severe damage to installations.
Why would you write this down?
Well, that's how confident they were, first of all, about their intelligence. Capture assault teams approaching from the sea or vicinity of Guantanamo City. Capture militia group which storms the base. Sabotage ship in harbor, large fires, nephiline or napalm. Sink ship near harbor entrance. Conduct funerals for mock victims. United States would respond by executing offensive operations to secure water and power supplies, destroying artillery and mortar emplacements, which showed in the base, and they would also commence large-scale United States military operations henceforth. So this is all part of that proposal, or everything I just said. So their plan was to create a bunch of incidents. They would then respond by executing offensive operations, and they would commence a large-scale United States military operation against Cuba in the face of those dastardly Cubans attacking Guantanamo Bay. This plan directly called upon the so-called Remember the Maine incident, which was a catastrophic explosion and sinking of the USS Maine naval ship in Havana Bay Harbor, Cuba in 1898. It was one of the primary catalysts of the Spanish-American War and resulted in the deaths of 266 American sailors. Despite the cause of the explosion never being proved, with the likely cause being an internal coal fire, rivaling New York media Goliaths William Hearst and Joseph Pulitzer issued newspaper reports which exaggerated baseless headlines, which were at the time known as yellow journalism. They suggested that Spain actually blew up the ship with a mine, resulting in national outrage and prompting the United States to declare war on Spain, when in actuality it probably was just a coal fire in the boat that sank that ship. That wasn't caused by Spain, but that didn't stop the media from printing the headlines, the baseless accusations that Spain had actually caused it, which directly led to United States declaring war on Spain because the public was on board immediately. So there is a history.
Is that what it is when, like, because I've heard this phrase so many times it's lost all meaning? That's a false flag, right?
Yeah, it's I mean, I don't know if that specific case is a false flag or if they just genuinely did have a boat accident and then just capitalized
Draw
on
the
it.
conclusion from it.
Capitalize on it. A false flag would be like if they intentionally blew up the ship and then like basically what we're talking about.
Like what happened in Nephilim in 9/11. Think about it, America. No one's ever said it before.
I'm glad we're only going to be deported right when we're going to leave the country anyway. So
yeah, that'll be great.
that works out well.
You, sir, have been deported to Japan. Oh, rat.
The other people who caused 9/11. What they learned from this, however,
that'd be hilarious. What, 2 miffed World War II pirates attacking their revenge?
That's my conspiracy. That's my conspiracy. Japan and America teamed up for 9/11 and blamed the Saudis. Evil deeds.
Yeah. Just to get one up on them because they mad that they balling.
Yeah. What they learned,
theory.
What they learned from this, however, is that the consent of the American population can be easily manufactured in favor of whatever high-level agenda the US have, regardless of the truth.
Yeah, Sheeple.
They directly say this. The Joint Chiefs of Staff's parallel proposal with the Remember the Maine incident was detailed as such. So again, remember, this is what the US government thinks of its population, at the time at least. But let's be real, more so now. Number 3. Remember the Maine. This is from them again. Remember the Maine incident could be arranged in several forms. A, we could blow up a U.S. ship in Guantanamo Bay and plane Cuba.
Nice.
So that is less of an inspiration, just directly doing it again. B, we could blow up a drone, unmanned vessel anywhere in the Cuban waters. We could arrange to cause such incident in the vicinity of Havana or Santiago as a spectacular result of Cuban attack from the air or the sea or both. The presence of Cuban planes or ships merely investigating the intent of the vessel could be fairly compelling evidence the ships were taken under attack. The nearness of Havana or Santiago would add credibility, especially to those people that might have heard the blast or have seen the fire. The US could follow up with an air-sea rescue operation covered by US fighters to evacuate remaining members of the non-existent crew. Casualty lists in US newspapers would cause a helpful wave of national indignation. That is a direct quote from them. Again, casualty lists in US newspapers would cause a helpful wave of national indignation. As bold as these specific plans are, the only point to damage of equipment, facilities, and vessels, assuming the sacrificial US ship was also unmanned, this would be a sacrificial drop in the bucket of the overwhelming US defense budget, easily recouped. What's proposed next, however, underlines just how far the officials were willing to go in pursuit of Cuban victory. Well, American victory in the face of the Cubans. We come to a topic aptly called domestic and international terror. It's at this point in the appendix that the JCS suggests bringing the theatrics onto American soil. This time, rather than mock victims, their plan proposes killing innocent Cuban refugees seeking safety in the United States. Not only that, but a draft of terror campaigns launched throughout Florida and Washington, D.C. The plan was as follows. Quote, we could develop a communist Cuban terror campaign in the Miami area, in other Florida cities, that's where we are, hell yeah, and even in Washington. The terror campaign could be pointed at Cuban refugees seeking haven in the United States. We could sink a boatload of Cubans en route to Florida. They seem really hell-bent on that. Real or simulator. They're like really excited to do that. We could foster attempts on lives of Cuban refugees in the United States, even to the extent of wounding in instances to be widely publicized. Exploding a few plastic bombs in carefully chosen spots, the arrest of Cuban agents, and the release of prepared documents substantiating Cuban involvement also would be helpful in protecting the idea of an irresponsible government, but ultimately not too important. We just want to blow up some Cuban refugees.
Very good, very good.
Although the document, that little last bit was my inclusion there. Although the document indicates that these are simply preliminary ideas issued for further planning, what does come to attention is the lack of any noted consideration of how the wounding Cuban refugees would be controlled, or more explicitly, how deaths would be avoided. Neither does the plan address how inflicting injuries on Cuban refugees through bombs could be isolated from, of course, collaterally hurting US citizens, notwithstanding the implication that either loss of innocent life is lesser or greater. There were also plans for the American Air Force to fly over Central America and Caribbean countries that Castro was known to be backing subversive efforts against, and to bomb their cane fields. It's all about the sugar again. This could have included countries such as Haiti?
What's the problem here?
Am I pronouncing it right? Haiti?
Yeah, Haiti.
Right.
I'm sure there's something like Haiti or something.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I hear it different than Haiti. Anyway, this could have included countries such as Haiti, the Dominican Republic, Guatemala, and Nicaragua, with the express intention of elevating international dissent towards Castro in Cuba to further justify the US's intervention. This would have been done by disguising the US planes, painting them to look Cuban, and by using Soviet bloc incendiaries and weaponry to complete the facade. They really do love painting their planes to look like other planes. They are really just a bunch of Warhammer nerds loving their painting tools. Even during World War II.
Is this your big conclusion? What are you talking about?
Putting little like sharks on their planes and stuff.
Oh, they do love doing that, don't they? Teeth on the front.
Yeah. Hot babes and stuff when they should be painting men.
Yeah, exactly.
Big, strong men.
Not just because of the manliness of the equipment, but also because that's clearly the sexier thing to do.
Well, it strikes fear into everyone and also strikes sexuality into everyone. The document specified that reasonable copies of Cuban aircraft could be produced from US resources in about 3 months. Alternatively, an actual Cuban aircraft could have potentially been obtained. Some so-called useful and complementary actions of creating these faux Cuban aircraft could have also been to harass US civilian aircraft, leading civilians to think the Cubans were deliberately intimidating them. They theorized that if the pilot were to announce that these were Cuban aircraft intimidating them, then the passengers would be even further convinced of this. This is what they have to say about that directly. Quote, harassment of civil air, attacks on surface shipping, and destruction of US military drone aircraft by MiG-type planes would be useful as complementary actions. An F-86 properly painted would convince air passengers that they saw a Cuban MiG, especially if the pilot of the transport were to announce such fact, end quote. Furthermore, listen to this for all your 9/11 conspiracies. Furthermore, it was also planned to stage attempted hijackings of US civilian aircraft to keep up the illusion that Cuba was condoning these actions. So I made it's not out of the realm of possibility that they would go back to this playbook.
No, it's really not. Like, this is actually, I do like. This is I'm sorry, I can't continue on with this.
I don't know if they can even hear it. He turned on a coffee machine.
There is like this diuretic spurt out of all of the machines here. We don't have this in Australia. You have a kettle in your hotel and you boil the kettle. I think it's just because we're so much more into tea than they are. So they're just kind of like this, like.
I have noticed that on planes, whenever you and I ask for a tea, like the flight attendant looks at us all weird.
Yeah, like, you sure you don't want a coffee?
Yeah, what are you talking about? What's it? A tea? Like the letter? Like they look very.
Yeah, that actually, a lot of times I've been on a plane and I've asked for a tea, and they've done that cocked head. Hang on, are you speaking English?
Yeah,
I'm like, I think I am. I think I'm saying the most English word there is.
I actually do think
it has to be the most English.
I do think enough time has passed where they do look at you more offended if you ask for tea than if you were to insinuate that the US government is behind 9/11.
Yeah.
It's really weird. They look very offended. But sue us. We're two tea drinkers over here. We like our tea. We like our tea. We come to even more airplane fun shenanigans. We come to the drone airliner.
More airplane shenanigans.
I do love calling everything
a shenanigan.
A shenanigan. It's such a good word.
Tomfoolery's up there.
Yeah. The proposals outlined in the appendix seemingly appear to become more radically creative the further it continues. Section 8 underscores one of the more drastic propositions in the document, the faking of a Cuban attack and destruction of a US passenger plane. So again, like, I don't believe that 9/11 was conducted by Americans. I'm just going to put that out there. Very brave stance. I don't think that. I haven't seen enough evidence to support the theory that the US is behind 9/11. But however, I don't think it's beyond the realm of the CIA to suggest something like that.
Okay, so you think that it was suggested by the CIA?
No. I'm just saying the CIA is certainly capable of suggesting, we need to, Mr. President, we need to down a passenger plane of our own people to support the war in Iran currently, to bring popularity for a ground invasion in Iran up. Like, I do think that the CIA is capable of doing something like that if the times were desperate enough.
Yes, I could as well. I mean, it's really, man.
We're seeing right here.
I feel like the CIA gets a bad rap. I would like someone to come out and defend against it, because, like, I really feel like everyone hates the CIA unless you're at the CIA. Yeah, like, everyone, presidents hate the CIA.
Yeah,
everyone hates it.
I mean, again, like, in this situation, Kennedy is directly quoted as saying, "I want to tear up the CIA into a million little different pieces. I want to scrap the CIA," and then months later, he's shot in the head. Like, the CIA just is the most powerful apparatus of the American system.
You've really got to read that book, but I can't remember what it's about. But it's about Venus forming
the little engine that always could.
Are you talking about the little engine that could?
Yes.
Or are you talking about some sequel that happened that I wasn't informed about?
I got the name wrong.
The little engine that always could. This is like kind of like Rocky Forever.
Isn't there a movie out at the moment, like, it's coming out about Rocky, but it's like the portrayal of...
I can't wait for that.
Yeah.
Because you know the story behind Rocky, right?
No. What?
That should be its own red thread.
Okay.
Instead of all this negativity, something inspirational.
But anyway, my point is, like, the sequel to the little engine that could be that, where it's following.
Oh, behind the scenes of the
that's a
train.
That's a little engine that always could. It's about him.
The little engine that always
going
could.
through a divorce, writing the script for it to give himself self-belief, and it's about him training to make it down to it. It's about all the issues dealing with Hollywood and executives trying to get his project greenlit. Another brilliant red thread idea.
All right, instead of I think I can, it was I always knew I could. Dude, the little engine could. Let us know in the comments, because I haven't seen it and I'm too scared to watch it. I'm sure it's very depressing.
I'm sure it's like watching Dumbo.
But the little engine that always could is very
The little
impressive.
engines are, well, yeah, because that's the
He almost
behind-the-scenes
overdoses.
story. Yeah.
At the end of the second act, he almost overdoses on coal. It's a very traumatic scene. But then the little fat conductor comes out and helps him.
Wait, what is his wife?
Yeah, I assume
A tunnel?
No,
Is a tunnel his wife?
No, the conductor or something. It has to be.
A conductor can't be his wife. A conductor's his boss.
Mm. We work in a plotline of workplace harassment as well.
Oh, okay, right. Yeah,
Improper
yeah.
power dynamics.
And he literally can't get away because it's only on a track.
Yeah.
There's nowhere to hide.
He has to be in it.
Literally, you can run, but you can't hide.
Oh, that's dark. I don't like that. Yeah,
The
so
little engine.
anyway,
Oh,
about the destruction of the U.S. passenger plane. They say, quote, "It is possible to create an incident which will demonstrate convincingly that a Cuban aircraft has attacked and shot down a chartered civil airliner en route from the U.S. to Jamaica, Guatemala, Panama, or Venezuela. The destination will be chosen only to cause the flight plan route to cross Cuba. The passengers could be a group of college students off on a holiday or any grouping of persons with a common interest to support chartering a non-scheduled flight. Then an aircraft at Eglin AFB would be painted and numbered as an exact duplicate for a civil registered aircraft belonging to a CIA proprietary organization in the Miami area. At a designated time, the duplicate would be substituted for the actual civil aircraft and would be loaded with the selected passengers or boarded under carefully prepared aliases. The actual registered aircraft would be converted to a drone. Then, takeoff times of the drone aircraft and the actual aircraft will be scheduled to allow a rendezvous south of Florida. From the rendezvous point, the passenger-carrying aircraft will descend to minimum altitude and go directly into the auxiliary field at Eglin AFB, where arrangements will have been made to evacuate the passengers and return the aircraft to its original status. The drone aircraft, drone meaning the one without people on board, I mean, there still needs to be someone flying it. The drone aircraft, meanwhile, will continue to fly the filed flight plan. When over Cuba, the drone will begin transmitting on the international distress frequency a Mayday message stating he is under attack by Cuban MiG aircraft. The transmission will be interrupted by destruction of the aircraft, which will be triggered by a radio signal. This will allow ICAO radio stations in the Western Hemisphere to tell the US what has happened to the aircraft, instead of the US trying to sell the incident. All of these pitch plans showed the US military's deep fear of losing their grip on Cuba, and to suggest such brash moves as these demonstrated their sheer desperation in rectifying that. Operation Northwoods was far from a perfect and watertight plan, though. There were plenty of unanswered questions and pitfalls as to how it could have been executed flawlessly so as not to blow their cover. At the very least, how exactly could hundreds, if not thousands, of personnel be expected to all unanimously keep quiet about the operation? In reality, it probably would have been dicey at best. After signing the proposal at 2:30 p.m. on the 13th of March, the Minister handed the document to the Secretary of Defense, Robert McNamara, for coordination with President Kennedy and General Maxwell Taylor. 2 days later, on the 16th of March, the verdict came back. President Kennedy rather appropriately rejected the plan, stating that there was little possibility the US would engage in the use of overt military force in Cuba. So again, he had an issue with the idea of the US engaging militarily with Cuba, not necessarily all about the plans of like subterfuge and false flag operations. Like that wasn't his issue. His issue was just directly, I don't want to commit ground forces to Cuba yet.
They're always really dodgy about that, aren't they?
Yeah.
They don't like doing it, do they, presidents?
No, pussies.
No. I'd do that first. No aerial assault, nothing.
I would.
No
right.
cannon. That counts as an aerial assault because no naval assault, straight boats on the ground, D-Day without the support.
What I would do is I would do exactly that. I would send all my troops in immediately.
Yes.
I would make
Very
sure
good strategy.
I would make sure that their guns aren't loaded.
Yeah.
And then I would
basically just describing World War One, but continue. yes. Okay, yeah.
Once they're all in there and we lose horribly, I would then commit a false flag operation on my soil.
What to say that there's been a counterattack? And then what's the point of that?
I mean, the ground invasion has already started. There's no point.
No, it's just, I suppose you could say it like, look, I know that we got us in here and I'm the man to get us out. I'm all you've got. You've got to give it to me. They're now attacking us now.
And then somehow I will forge a victory ahead and then do another false flag celebration.
Or maybe because
Now I'm thinking like the US government.
Okay. What about if you just went on there with absolutely nothing? They had no weapons, anything like that. You put them all out onto enemy territory.
Tricycles.
Send them out on tricycles. And the generals are on penny farthingales to show their status. And if you're a grunt, you have to be able to raise a scooter. It's all just based on the size of the wheel that you're on.
and in order to rise through the ranks of the military, you have to collect all the different letters hidden in the level that spell out like the rank. So you know how in like Tony Hawk Pro Skater,
yeah,
like you run around and collect the letters. You have to do that in Civil War.
In case they have to
if you want to be a general, you have to get GENERAL.
So you cost millions of people's lives setting up a grind link. Appropriate letters. He who grinds gets to be general.
Whoever gets the highest score wins the war.
Chief.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, so Secretary of Defense under you is Tony Hawk.
Yeah, it's the safest bet. Meeting notes from General Lansdale accounts for Kennedy's reaction to the proposals. He says, quote, "The president said bluntly that we were not discussing the use of the U.S. military force nor U.S. skaters. That General Lemnitzer might find the U.S. so engaged in Berlin or elsewhere that he couldn't use the contemplated 4 divisions in Cuba. So we cannot say that we are able now to make a decision on the use of U.S. military force." So basically the U.S. was so engaged in Berlin or elsewhere that they couldn't contemplate using the 4 divisions in Cuba. Therefore, he didn't like it. Kennedy may not have directly opposed the actual plans concocted in the proposal. He was still in support of the broader Operation Mongoose, just not the use of such deceptive tactics, because he was a man of honor. This wouldn't be the final time a covert operation to falsify Cuban attacks was presented to Kennedy. A year later, at the birth of the Cuban Missile Crisis, Kennedy's brother and Attorney General Robert F. Kennedy was captured on secret White House recording systems proposing a plan of deception to justify U.S. intervention. He says, quote, "Can I say that one other thing is whether we should also think of whether there is some other way we can get involved in this through Guantanamo Bay or something, or whether there's some ship that, sink the Maine again or something," end quote. So again, they really love the idea of these false flags. Once again, Kennedy dismissed the idea out of fears it would end in nuclear war, pussy. It was clear by this point that these kinds of desperate measures and false flag operations were simply out of the question for JFK. And that's when he took his trip to Dallas. Kennedy's stance created a major rift between the Pentagon and the White House. The US military was still staunchly hostile against any whiff of Soviet hostility brewing in Cuba and its influence on the rest of Central America, and were more than willing to do what was necessary in their minds to thwart this. To them, Kennedy was going soft and was nothing more than a handbrake to US intervention. Kennedy's diverging sentiment on the nuclear threat they actually faced was made clear in the height of the Cuban Missile Crisis in a comment made to his aide, which said, quote, "These brass hats have one great advantage in their favor. If we listen to them and do what they want us to do, none of us will be alive later to tell them that they were wrong," end quote. By 1963, pretext ideas were still being pushed, such as flying a U-2 aircraft over Cuban airspace in hopes of provoking them to shoot it down. Despite following through with the idea, Cuba didn't take the bait. I love how Cuba's just the bigger man in this situation, like the entire time. Like America's flying a plane over going, "Yoo-hoo, shoot us."
Yeah.
And Cuba's like, "We ain't falling."
Yeah. That's incredible that they didn't.
Like they're flying over with like a giant, like a spray painted like bullseye on the side.
Yeah.
Provoking
so hard.
Yeah. You guys want to. Don't we look so shootable right now? General Lemnitzer was denied a second term as chairman of the Joint Chief of Staff and was reassigned to U.S. military operations in Europe as NATO's Supreme Allied Commander of Europe. Out of fears of congressional investigation and military discussions during this period, as well as the Bay of Pigs disaster, Lemnitzer ordered all recordings and files pertaining to these JCS operations to be destroyed. With the information gone, Lemnitzer now felt confident to lie to a secret Senate committee that he had little idea of any plans to conduct a ground invasion in Cuba, and any such details were already in motion prior to Kennedy's inauguration. And so we come to declassification. So again, you were talking in your show that there's very few CIA documents or operations or projects that you know of that were ordered to be destroyed. There's another one.
No, I don't know about CIA. I know, like, I'm talking
Air Force.
specifically about the Air Force.
Yeah, right.
The CIA, I'm sure they destroy shit all the time.
Yeah, all the time. Declassification. For 35 years, Operation Northwoods was completely unknown to the general public. Strangely, the catalyst for the declassification of the files was filmmaker Oliver Stone's film, JFK, which is a political thriller drama with a plot that investigates Kennedy's assassination, believing that his supposed killer Lee Harvey Oswald was a scapegoat for a larger conspiracy surrounding his death. The film reignited the public's interest in Kennedy's assassination and the secrecy surrounding it. The resulting public pressure led to Congress passing the JFK Assassination Records Collection Act of 1992, also known as the JFK Act, and creating the Assassination Records Review Board, ARRB. There's an Assassination Records Review Board. I rate that assassination not good for the health and safety of the public. What do you mean? The ARRB.
Yeah.
This doesn't suit the sensibilities of our nation. We will be refusing classification of this assassination. You may submit again in 6 months.
I have to review or destroy the review board and come up with a secondary review board. Excessive records of review of the review board.
The ARRB stated that though the film was largely fictional, they acknowledged Stone's point in the film that due to the large amount of secrecy around Kennedy's assassination, it was difficult for the American public to trust the conclusions that had been presented because those conclusions had all been made in secret. Thus, the ARRB had a broad mandate to declassify all information they had relating to Kennedy's assassination over the next 25 years, which was up to 2017. Because Operation Northwoods concerned Cuba and was therefore entangled with JFK assassination geopolitics, it was included in the ARRB's vast array of documents to be declassified, despite having nothing to do with the assassination of JFK in and of itself. An estimated 4 million documents were declassified, with Operation Northwoods being released on the 18th of November, 1997. All in all, the document made up just a small fragment of over 1,500 pages of released military records concerning the years of 1962 to 1964. Despite what you might imagine, the release of Operation Northwoods drew virtually no public attention upon its initial release in 1997. It took until mid-2001 when journalist James Bamford discussed it in his book called Body of Secrets, Anatomy of the Ultra-Secret National Security Agency, end quote. That's the title, which analyzes the NSA's hidden role in numerous world events for the press to begin to take proper note of Operation Northwoods and begin reporting on it themselves. A more thorough version of Operation Northwoods, complete with memorandum in the annex detailing the terror proposals, was posted online by the National Security Archive at George Washington University on the 30th of April, 2001. Those associated with Operation Northwoods received zero repercussions. There were no trials, no inquiries, and, of course, no depositions. Just a signed piece of paper proving the willingness for the plan existed within the US military sitting in an archive for the rest of time. Again, this passed a board of military generals, chiefs of staff, like an entire apparatus, basically. All that stopped it from happening was JFK not signing a document saying, no. And the reason why he didn't sign the document was because he just didn't want to commit ground forces. Like, if he did want to actually invade Cuba, he would have been right on board with signing away terror attacks in Florida and the rest of like the southern states, basically, to facilitate the public being okay with the ground invasion of Cuba. It came very close to happening. So again, very possible for the US government to sanction terror attacks on its own ground if it means facilitating the means to push their agenda, or at least historically.
Yeah, it feels like the 50s and 60s was a particularly pernicious time.
I mean, the nuclear threat, of course.
There was the nuclear threat, I suppose, but I don't know. I feel like something was particularly sinister happening, like in the corridors of power back then.
Voldemort.
I don't really know how to describe it, so I'm not going to.
Okay, thank you for your input. In fact, given the space of time between the operation being proposed and its declassification 35 years later and its wider coverage a further 4 years after that, everyone accountable for the plan was either retired or dead by the time it surfaced. Lemnitzer himself had passed away in 1988, 9 years prior to its declassification. So why does this matter? Are they going to finally take Cuba? Has the entire 60 years been a false flag operation to finally take Cuba, to avenge the ghost of JFK? Despite the lack of
Oh, I'll take
consequences
it.
for Operation Northwoods, it points to a dangerous precedent within the US government. If this had been proposed before, could something similar have been proposed since then, unbeknownst to US citizens? On the 2nd of August of 1964, the US reported that North Vietnamese torpedo boats had attacked 2 US destroyer ships in the Gulf of Tonkin off the coast of North Vietnam. The ships reported to have been attacked by the boats and returned fire. This was a pivotal point in the US's engagement in the Vietnam War, getting more directly involved from that point onwards. However, later investigation revealed that no North Vietnamese boats had been present at the time and that no attack had ever actually been carried out. The NSA then deliberately skewed the information to still give the impression that the attack had indeed happened.
Shit, I did not know that. Wow, that's incredible.
In early 2003, tensions amongst US civilians were at an all-time high. The 9/11 terrorist attacks had happened just a year and a half prior, and President George Bush Jr. was beginning to make claims to the public that Iraq possessed weapons of mass destruction.
And did.
And they were actively
No, don't read the rest of this paragraph.
They were
That's
actively
what I read.
developing more and were failing to comply with disarmament obligations enacted by the United Nations Security Council. In March of that year, Operation Iraqi Freedom began, leading to the US invading Iraq and beginning a war that lasted 8 years and greatly damaged the US's reputation, particularly throughout the Middle East. No evidence of weapons of mass destruction were ever found or ever materialized. In fact, it was completely false information. Saddam Hussein had destroyed what was left of his weapons of mass destruction at the end of the First Gulf War in 1991, some 10 years earlier, and actually had less capacity to manufacture more by the time the US invaded in 2003. Do you need more evidence? In 2025, in the midst of rising tensions between Israel and Iran, President Donald Trump ordered US airstrikes in Iran, citing that they had large amounts of refined uranium and were very close to the completion of building nuclear weapons. Trump's claims echoed those of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, but contradicted US intelligence agencies who had information that Iran's nuclear weapons program had been shut since 2003.
Jesus Christ.
These are just a few examples of moments where plans similar to Operation Northwoods may have been on the table. But despite all of this, however, it's important to remember that Operation Northwoods was merely proposed and it was rejected and was never executed. I don't think we would know of these operations if they were executed, though. I do want to make that clear. I think those documents would not come out in an assassination review board. Operation Northwoods has long since been touted by conspiracy theorists as a way of proving 9/11 was an inside job, which historians have continually warned against. It's also worth considering, well, again, I do want to say that no evidence that I've found suggests that the US government facilitated a false flag attack in 9/11. They definitely capitalized on it. I don't think there's any evidence to suggest that they orchestrated it. However,
No, I think that the more credible conspiracy theory is, did they know about it in advance?
and then it happened. Yeah.
And I think that actually has, I think that's kind of just a fact, isn't it?
I mean, it's to like in the same way, like law enforcement agencies always come out and say, yes, we knew of the mass shooter.
Yeah,
we have files and files of him. We were tracking him. It's just it slipped through the net, guys. I'm sorry about that one. That one's on us. In the same way that happens, but also, yeah, back to what I was saying again. Even if 9/11 wasn't an inside job, and even if they didn't know about it or didn't know about it, it doesn't change the fact that the US government obviously sees false flag operations as part of the game.
I mean,
Part of
yeah,
it,
like you
also.
definitely need it, don't you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Especially in a democracy. Like you really need to have public sentiment on your side to go and justify an invasion.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, you get exactly what's happening now with Iran.
Yeah, mass pushback against it, obviously, and civil unrest. But I mean, yeah, I mean, it's pretty fucking scary. I don't know what to really say about it. It's also worth considering that with all the technology the general public has available to them nowadays, a self-sabotaging conspiracy theory of Operation Northwoods' magnitude, or indeed greater, would likely be harder than ever to successfully pull off, if not downright impossible. Disputed. Any sort of self-induced domestic terrorism acts, for example, would any sort of self-induced domestic terrorism attacks or acts, for example, would need to be meticulously or flawlessly carried out to avoid public scrutiny, finding the holes in the story and unraveling whatever fabricated story there may be. That being said, Operation Northwoods is a clearly documented counter-argument to any claims that the government would never do that. It was proposed, they just didn't enact it that time. Perhaps things might have happened differently if Nixon had been president at the time rather than Kennedy. However, it still seems unlikely, but we will never know for sure. All that's known is that it was one signature away from happening. That's going to do it for this week's episode of Red Thread. It's almost 1 a.m. Geordies needs to get to bed. Go on, hop in bed. Go on. Let's get him in bed, guys. It's bedtime for Geordies.
Thanks so much for tuning in.
Good night, Geordies.
Good night, everybody.
Bye.
Jackson, can you give me a kiss?
Yes. All right, make sure you turn off that lamp. I'm just going to sit here all night and watch. I'll watch and protect you. There we go. I'll turn off this lamp. Good night, Geordies. Bye, everyone. Official.men, okay? Official.men.
Jackson, I need to go to the toilet. Get another complimentary card.
7-day free trial, official.men, if you want more content just like this. Bye, guys. No, you can still see me.
Oh, you look so terrified.
Bye, guys.